I'm your presenter, Salman Rahman, and today's topic is keeping documents secure with MYOB Document Manager. This is one of the many tutorials that we have recorded so that you can use your practice management tools more efficiently. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So today's session is approximately 30 minutes long. Please make note of any questions along the way. There will be a question answer session right at the end. So you can ask any questions through the Q&A chat panel, and we will endeavor to cover them throughout the session or at the end during the Q&A session. Okay, and welcome to the 2015 MYOB Tips, Tricks and Tutorials. I'm your presenter, Salman Rahman, and today's topic is keeping documents secure with MYOB Document Manager. This is one of the many tutorials that we have recorded and we continue to deliver so that you can use the practice management tools more efficiently. Link to the recorded tutorials will be available to you in a few weeks. And we also have a couple of websites on your screen that links back to our TTT website, so you will be able to go back and attend any of the previously recorded sessions. And a copy of today's session will be made available in a few days, and you can also download the handout from the file menu. So in today's session, we talk about document security, and we will be covering topics that will go through different techniques to ensure all your internal and external communications are stored safely within MYOB Document Manager. With any successful document management system, information security is at its forefront, as we understand that loss of information can be critical and costly for business owners. So in this tutorial, we'll be looking at the various security features within Document Manager. So we'll be going through the filing cabinet security. We're looking at the document security. We're going through the task permissions, the employee security, team security, which is a functionality available for accountants office users, and security features that are available within Internet. And then we'll spend a bit of time going through our question and answers that have come through the chat panel. So just wanted to note that although the session is mainly for our Accountants Enterprise Document Manager users, most of the topics that we'll be going through are also relevant for our Accountants Office Document Manager users. So if you have any of the AO users joining the session today, I'll point out if a specific security feature isn't available for the AO version of Document Manager. Now, before we go through those features, it's important to understand that the Document Manager infrastructure is quite different to the standard Windows folder structure that many of us are very, very familiar with. So within Document Manager, there's a database component with all of the all of the metadata and the information stored within a SQL database, and there's a file store component. The file store or the physical documents are generally stored within a secured location on your server, and they're not accessible to team members. There's really no backdoor that you can go in and access those documents. The only way an employee can access these documents is by logging into MYOB AE or MYOB AO. So therefore, the various security features that we're going to be going through today are only applicable when the employee is logged inside AE or AO. On top of that, as many of you may be familiar, there are various tools within MYOB Document Manager that will prevent permanent deletion of documents. It allows you with a full audit trail of the documents from its initial creation stage, and we also have the version control utility. So the first level of security that we're going to be going through is the filing cabinet security, which is the most commonly used security setting within Document Manager. This is generally controlled by the security group or the employee groups that the employee is a member of. And in Document Manager, all of the documents are stored within a filing cabinet, and you can control who has access to which of the filing cabinets through the security groups. So if you go under Maintenance, access the Documents area, and then Document Manager Setup, the Filing Cabinets tab appears where all of the filing cabinets are listed, and you can access the Security tab for each filing cabinet, and you can configure the security access for to set up the level of access they have for each of those cabinets. For those of you who are using Accountant's Office, you will notice that there's a maintenance map, and you can go through and access the same area through the maintenance map. So once we get into the filing cabinet security setup, we have different levels that allows employee groups to be set up so that they can read documents, they can create documents within that cabinet, that they can edit the documents, delete the documents, and also archive the documents if necessary. Read and create options must be ticked for a user to profile new documents to a filing cabinet. And each security group can be assigned different levels for one of the filing cabinets. So if a user doesn't really belong to one of those security groups that the document is filed against, they simply cannot see the documents or access the documents through Document Manager. So let's take a look and see how this happens. I'm going to switch over to my software. So for our presentation today, I'm using Accountant's Enterprise. And as mentioned, for those of you who are using Accountant's Office version of Document Manager, most of the functionality that I'm going to be showing you today are exactly the same, and I will point out when some of those security features are not relevant. So today we're going to be going through two separate employees. I'm logged in as Chris. Chris is the partner of the firm, and Chris has super user access. So he's an admin user, and he's got full rights to the system. And going through the client Aberton ranking, when I go and look at the list of documents, I can see that there's a number of documents listed here. And out of those documents, we've got a couple of documents that are stored under the financial planning filing cabinet. If I switch back to Deborah, Deborah is another user within the system, and Deborah is actually part of the accountant security group. So if Deborah goes to the same client and she goes and searches for the documents, I can see that the documents are listed, but the filing cabinet named financial planning, it's not visible. So any of the documents that were stored under the financial planning filing cabinet isn't accessible to Deborah or anyone who's part of the accountant security group. So let's go and see how that happens. I'm going to jump back in as Chris, and I'm going to go into the maintenance area within Accountant's Enterprise. And for AO users, you can go through the maintenance map. I'm going to jump into the documents and into the Document Manager setup area. And then within that setting, I can go into the filing cabinets area, and all of the filing cabinets are listed. So let's take a look at the financial planning cabinet. I go into the security tab, and I can see that within the security tab of financial planning, the accountants group is actually excluded. So that means anyone who's part of that security group is not able to access or see the documents within this filing cabinet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give accountants access to the financial planning cabinet. And as you can see, we have those different levels of security that we can implement to customize the level of security that they have within this financial planning cabinet. So I'm going to go and press finish, and I'm going to jump back in as Deborah. So back into the same client, and when Deborah goes in and looks for those documents, she can now see those two files that were saved in the financial planning cabinet, and that's how the filing cabinet security works. The next type of security we're going to be looking at is called the document security, which is accessed through the document property area and by going into the security tab. The document security is mainly used to override the default filing cabinet security, and it normally can also be used to apply individual employees' security. So when you're profiling document, you can also access the security option from the profiling area. And you can add additional security groups or individual employees. You can customize the document security by allowing certain users access to the file and also modifying the level of security they have for that specific document. So just wanted to reiterate the fact that this is only for individual documents. So again, I'm going to jump over to my Accountant's Enterprise system, and I'm going to show you how this works. So jump back into Chris Abbott's login. And this type of security is normally applied through a user who's got super user or admin level access. So not everyone is able to modify or apply this kind of security. So what I'm going to do is I've got the document called Ownership Transition with the reference number 1721_1, and I'm going to right-click and go into the Properties, and I can see the Document Profiling window come up, and I can see the Security tab. And within the Security tab, I'm able to see the default filing cabinet security that this document is part of. So that's the financial planning cabinet security. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to say that no, we don't want that. We want to apply a custom document security. And I can remove all of these users from that group. And I can go into the Employee tab, and I'm going to give Deborah access to the filing cabinet. And I'm also going to give myself access to the filing cabinet, otherwise I can't even see the documents. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say that I just want Deborah to be able to read the documents, not make any changes, so I can customize that level of security. So I'm going to press OK and press OK again and jump back into Deborah's login. So we've got the documents listed here. I can see the ownership transition document, but when I try to open the document, you'll notice that a message comes up saying that Deborah doesn't have edit rights to the document. So Deborah is able to see any documents through that cabinet, but she doesn't have any rights to make changes to any of the documents or to that specific document. So this is for that specific document only. Okay, let's jump back to the presentation again. Now, the next type of security is called task permissions for documents, which is accessed through the maintenance area. And this is controlled by the employee security group that the employee is a member of. And if you access the maintenance area and go to the security and the task permissions, you'll be able to modify or manage the security levels by going and choosing Document Manager as the product. And you can apply different levels of security by choosing the employee security group. So in this case, on your slide, you can see how this is laid out. So we've got the product document manager, and we've got the employee group accountants, and we can see various subcategories or sub-levels within that security area. So it controls settings such as access to the documents tab for contacts, clients, employees, and assignments. For those of you who are using AO, that'll be jobs. It'll also control access to the taskbar options, so the different type of activities an user is able to perform, things such as the ability to access the audit trail within the document, the ability to export documents out, the ability to check things in or check things out, even the ability to print documents. So I can control those activities by going into this security settings area. And most of the security permissions in the taskbar are listed under the contact sub area within the task permissions. It's also worth mentioning that normally this task permissions area can be used to also restrict access to employee documents tab, which means that when an employee logs into an accountant's enterprise or accountant's office, they're not able to access documents that are saved against another employee. Just a really good tool to control or privatize documents saved for specific employees. Moving on to the next level of security. So we talk about the employee security now, which is accessed through the employee's record or the employee's card file, as we know. And once you go into the employee's record and go and look at the document settings tab, you'll find that there's another tab called the security tab. And this section is it can be used to set up an employee as a document approver, a document manager administrator, and also allow them to delete documents that are in progress. Now, for the AO users, I need to mention that the approval functionality is not available. So for those of you who are using AO, you will not be able to see the approver tick box. Now, the document manager administrator doesn't normally make a user a super user or administrator. It's just simply giving them access to some of the administrative functionalities specific to document manager. So this will be access to the document manager administrative homepages, such as the ability to see all of the documents that are checked out of the system, the ability to see all the recently used documents through all of the team members, and also the ability to see all outstanding documents at one given point of time. We do have a recorded webinar that we did last year, which goes through the approvals of Document Manager. For those of you who are using the AE Document Manager, I'd really recommend that you go through that webinar in order to get a better understanding of how the approval functionality works. But for our purpose today, this is where you would normally go in and specify or set up an employee as an approver or as a Document Manager administrator. Now, the allow deletion of in-progress documents is used when an employee doesn't have access to delete documents as per their filing cabinet security. So normally when we configure Document Manager, we wouldn't allow a general user to delete documents that are saved in Document Manager, but this particular security gives them access to delete the documents as long as they're the creators of all versions of the documents and none of the versions were ever completed or approved. So this is normally documents that you've just created and they're in draft status and you just realize that you didn't really have to create the document, so you can go and delete the documents. And it's a soft delete, so there is no permanent delete within Document Manager. So every time you're deleting the document, you're really hiding the document from the document search, so it's not really necessary for it to show up. The next security feature within Document Manager that we're going to be going through is actually called Team Security, and it is only specifically for our Accountants Enterprise users. So there is a knowledge base article that talks through the setting up of Team Security within Accountants Enterprise, and once that's activated, you are able to restrict access to certain clients. So this could be private clients that you don't want other users to go through and access. And whether Team Security is applied to a client or a contact, any documents that are saved under that record are also hidden. So in other words, if you're not part of that team, you just cannot see the client or contact, and you cannot access any of their documents. So let's go and take a look and see how that works. I'm going to switch over to my system again, and back into Accountants Enterprise. I'm going to go into Chris Abbott. And what I'm going to do is jump into my responsibility tab, and I've actually enabled the Team Security. So once this is activated, you will notice the Apply Team Security tick box available in the responsibility tab of the client or the contact. I'm going to turn it on, and when I press OK, the active client partner and any of the team members' names listed on this side will be able to view the client. So I'm going to press OK. I'll jump back in to Deborah's login again. I'm going to cancel out of that. And what I'm going to do is search for the client named Abbott and Ranking. Okay, so as you notice, when I look for that client is no longer visible to Deborah. And that means any of the documents that were initially saved underneath that client is also not accessible. So just need to note that Team Security will override all other types of security options within Document Manager, as the employee simply cannot see that client or the contact anymore. Let's go back to my presentation again. Now let's spend a few minutes going through the security features within Intranet. So Intranet security is normally based on the user's Windows login, and you can access the Intranet security by going through the maintenance area, accessing the documents area, and then going through the Intranet administration. And whenever a user logs into Intranet, they're actually accessing Intranet with a specified role that was assigned to them. And it's the roles that are used to control access to the different categories or contents within the Intranet. So if you like someone like Deborah to not be able to access some of the contents that you want to secure, you can apply the security functionality by going to the Intranet administration. So let's go through and have a look and see how that works. Okay, I'm back into my system again. I'm going to just jump into Chris's login, and I'm going to go back into Maintenance, Documents, Intranet Administration, which brings up the Intranet Administration console. And if I go through the maintenance area and go and look at the team members, I can see all of my employees listed here. And Deborah's got a accountant role. So each of the users within the internet will have a role specified to them. And if we jump back into the roles area, I can also see how an accountant role is defined, what contents they can access through the internet. So all of that is set up within the internet administration console. So what I can do now is I'm going to go through the financial planning category. I can say that any of the accountants don't really need to go through and access the contents within this category. So I'm just going to give administrators and my partners and managers access to the financial planning content. So that will secure the category. And if I jump back into Deborah's login again and I launch Internet, I will notice that the financial planning is not visible. So Deborah or anyone who's logged in with the accountant's role is not able to access the contents within Internet. And as you can see, you can also access the administration console from the main interface, and it'll actually ask you for your Internet administration username and password. And I just need to stop there and just mention for a second that if you are an Internet administrator and you are able to access the Internet console, you can actually see pretty much every single content within the administration area. But for end users, you're able to manage the contents or just manage who can access what. Okay, I'm going to jump back into my presentation again and just go through the summary as we almost reached the end of our presentation. So we've gone through some of the security features within MYOB Document Manager. The filing cabinet security, which allows you to secure documents based on employee groups. The document security, which allows you to apply a document-specific security. So if you want an individual document to be accessible to certain team members, you can apply the document security. Task permissions really allows you to control the different tasks that are performed through Document Manager, and also the ability to access different document tabs. Employee security, which sets out the approval levels within Document Manager for AE users, and also the administrative levels within Document Manager. So this is something that can be used for both AO and AE users, but the approval functionality is only available for AE users. And lastly, the team security, which is only available for our Accountants Enterprise users, which allows you to block access to contacts or clients, so you can maintain a set of private clients, and you can also restrict access to documents for those clients. And lastly, we looked at the security features within MYOB Internet, which is mainly role-based, and you can control and manage access to certain contents within the internet. Okay, so we've reached the end of our presentation. Many thanks for attending today's presentation, and on behalf of myself, my host Gurpreet, and MYOB, we hope you found the session informative and useful. A few things to mention before we start answering questions through the chat section. Firstly, at the end of the session, when you close out of the WebEx, you'll be prompted to fill out an online feedback form, like the one shown on your screen at the moment. And please provide your valued feedback about today's presentation so that we can improve on our future presentations. Secondly, a recording of the session will be posted on our tips, tricks, and tutorials website in the next few days. So on your handout, you should have a copy of you should have a link to our MYOB TTT website. So we do have separate links for Australian and New Zealand customers. And finally, just keep an eye out for any e-bulletins for future webinars in this series. You can also download the handout by pressing the Control T button on your keyboard. And you can also contact my colleague Gurpreet, who can help you download the handouts. Right, we've reached the presentation. Now we're going to open the line for any question and answers. So if you have any questions along the way, or if you want to ask us something, please add them in the chat panel onto your right. Do we have any questions coming through from anyone? So we do have a question from someone on the line, and the question was, can the individual document settings be applied to more than one document? So that means can you apply that specific document level security on more than one document? It does have to be set up per document, so you will have to set it up one by one. Yep, so we have a question from someone else in terms of outsource contractors and being able to log them to certain clients only. So yes, that is definitely possible. So we do have a number of solutions available for our clients. We do have consultants who can go out and discuss this in more details, but basically this is a functionality that is available for our AE sites only. So a combination of team security, assignment data security, and the ability to give users full assignment access will allow you to implement the outsourced contractors. So certain employees can log in and only see certain types of clients that they have access to. Whereas the rest of the office can just use AE as usual. But there are a number of steps to be taken before you can implement that in your system. The other question that's coming through is, where do soft deleted documents go? So as I mentioned before, that the document management system has a physical file store location, and the individual document information is also stored within your SQL database. So when a user goes in and deletes the documents, it's marked as deleted, so it doesn't show up in the search, but the actual documents are still stored in the physical file location, so they don't really disappear. The next question is, can we change individual employee settings to allow some users to check back in documents of another user? Now, the ability to check documents on behalf of another user is generally based on a number of things. So you could, this is the ability to check in or check out is mainly managed by the task permissions in the security group area. But whether an employee is able to check in a specific document will also depend where the document is being checked out. So a number of times sites will have a default checkout location, which is accessible to all the employees within your office. So anyone can go and check the files in if they have access to that default checkout path. So if you are checking a file out to, let's say, your USB drive or to your own private documents folder, then other employees may not have access to those documents. So that's really just a policy or a setting, administrative setting that's configured at your office. But the ability to even check in is task permissions within AE. So it's a combination of two things. The next question is, can super user access the physical files? I'm going to have to say yes and no. So a super user is the restriction or the security permissions applied to the employee when they are accessing Accountants Enterprise. Or for those of you who are using AO, we call it the admin level. Whether or not they can have access to the physical file store location is really up to the Windows administrators. So that physical location may not be made available to team members. So it's just like your database location. You don't necessarily have to access the database. You just access the system through AE or AO. So again, it's an office policy whether you can access the file. Just wanted to also expand on that. If you are accessing the physical document location, there's really not much you can do when you go to that physical location because all of the files are actually encrypted. So it's just really just a big folder with lots of documents with encrypted file names, and the database knows who the files belong to, what client they are saved under, who created the document. So the properties are laid out in the database. The physical file store just holds those documents. So again, there's not much you can do once you go into that physical location anyway. How do you retrieve a soft deleted document? So that's the next question. So there are a couple of home pages that can be used to retrieve documents that are deleted. I'm just going to quickly jump back into my system. I'll show you just a couple of home pages that can be used to retrieve documents that were deleted in the past. So I'm back in as Chris, and if I jump back into Document Manager, we have a couple of home pages. One of them is called Administration, and within the Administration view, we have currently checked out documents. But then there's also the Document Manager homepage called My Documents, which allows users to go and access their recently used documents, so My Recently Used Documents or All Recently Used Documents. So these two homepages are used normally to retrieve a document that was deleted. So My Recently Used Documents would generally display a document that was deleted in the past. So if you look at the screen here, the document on the list, the third one from the list, is actually a deleted document, and it's pretty easy to work out because it's got a line across it, and all you have to do is select that document and use the Restore from Trash Bin. And for those of you who are administrators, you'll be able to see all recently used documents, and it basically does the same thing. So any documents that were deleted in the past by any users, and you can also filter by the users, and you can retrieve those documents on someone else's behalf. So hopefully that answers the question. Do we have any further questions? We've got about a minute left. Okay, so we'll be ending the presentation now. So thank you once again. Thank you so much for attending the session, and hopefully this was helpful. Please don't forget to download the handouts and watch out for any of the future tutorials. And thank you once again, and have a good day. Bye.